So, David, I'd like to welcome you to the Living Full Out Show.
Thank you so much. It's great to be on with you today.
Oh, man, I was so looking forward to this conversation because although it's a hard topic to talk about, who you've become is just really breathtaking. I'm so proud of you. I want to share with our audience, though, that your early beginnings were not easy. I know there was a lot of dysfunction going on in the family. Your parents argued. Your sister got kicked out of the house at an early age. Your brother ended up getting kicked out as well and went to a transitional home. Your mom and dad ended up divorcing when you were 9, and obviously she went off to California, so she wasn't around. And there's this little bitty David. You were an outgoing boy. You loved sports. You had so much brightness ahead of you. And as the years went along, your brother ended up being groomed, that's the word I'm going to go with, by a predator, an abuser. And what was the scenario around that? How this person entered your family's life?
Yeah, so after my parents got divorced, my brother continued using drugs and alcohol, and my dad had given him an ultimatum, and he didn't listen. And so my dad and uncle caught him with some marijuana, and they took him to CPS, which is Child Protective Services in Washington State. And they put him in a group home. And this person who abused us had just gotten out of prison in South Carolina, moved to Washington, befriended the person running this group home just so he could have access to young boys. And my brother was the person he chose, and he started molesting him. And so that's how he came into our life.
Yeah. And there was that day when you were home, a January 1st, wanting to watch football with your dad. Your brother calls you, says, "Mom's with me. Come over, watch football." At that point, it had been only your brother that he had molested. But that day changed your life. What happened then?
Yeah, so we have this call with my brother. For 20 minutes we're going back and forth because I was telling him that I wasn't going to come over because Dad and I were getting ready to watch football. But then he put my mom on the phone, and once I heard her voice, I was like, okay, I'm coming over because I've always been a mama's boy and just the relationship that we have. And so went over, and for like 3 hours it was okay. It was great. I was seeing my mom. I hadn't seen her in 2 years. And so it was incredible. And then the abuser asked us to go play hide and go seek. And as an 11-year-old, that's what you do. And so I thought I found a good hiding spot in the basement. And when the abuser found me, that's when he started the first initial sexual abuse with me.
Yeah. And that sexual abuse, that was 11 and it went till you were 19. That is a long time. And he abused you and your brother in various ways. And ultimately, though, the hatred, the anger, I know there was a time when you and your brother were drinking, and this just took its toll. What happened then?
Yeah. In psychology, they have the term seeing red. And the night that we took this person's life, that's what happened. It was just this moment where we were just filled with so much rage and hatred and animosity. Everything that had happened the past 8 years just built up, and we were like a volcano, and we erupted, and that's what caused the murder. And even right after the murder, it took a little bit for it to all sink in as far as like what we actually did, because that anger and hatred and animosity didn't just go away. It took time for it to dissipate and to just totally be released. And then we're like, oh crap, we just did this. Now what? And my brother had found a shovel, and so we had buried the body in the backyard.
That must have been a long 4 months before you were ultimately arrested. But what's interesting is, which I think anybody would be in panic mode once you were finally arrested, it was like, okay, how long am I going to go away for, and what's next? And you were kind of spiraling in now a different direction of survival. But the officer that arrested you, he asked you a question. What did he ask?
Yeah, so after I had been in an interrogation room for 7 hours and I confessed to the crime, that was this big weight that was taken off my chest because it's the first time I'd ever told anybody about the abuse, first time I ever told anybody about the murder. And so that was just such a relief to finally get that off my chest. And then here we are, we're heading back to the county jail. I'm in the front seat with him, handcuffed and shackled. And I look at him, I'm like, am I going to get the death penalty or life without parole? He's like, do you believe in God? I'm like, okay, am I going to get the death penalty or life without parole? He's like, do you believe in God? And I asked him again, I'm like, okay, am I going to get the death penalty or life without parole? And again, he asked me if I believed in God. And I told him, yeah. And so when I got back to the county jail, I asked for a Bible and they gave me a little New Testament Bible. And most people would go to John or Romans or Matthew. I went to Revelations. I went to the end of the book. I went to the end of the Bible and I got to this verse that says, Revelations 3:20. It says, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone opens the door, I will allow him to come in, and he will sup with me, and me with him." And I just cried out to God, and immediately this peace and joy came over me, and I was singing and dancing in my little 6x9 cell, where just a day earlier, I'm crying myself to sleep because I'm thinking I'm going to get the death penalty, or I'm going to spend the rest of my life in prison.
You know, it's interesting. Oftentimes people don't feel heard. They don't feel seen. And I can appreciate finally, after all that abuse, even though there had been a murder, you were finally heard. And I can imagine that moment. I mean, it gives me goosebumps thinking about it because you were now in a safe place. And you were ultimately, though, sentenced to 25 years. You did 13 and a half. But when we come back, where I want to go is the mindset. Somebody can get out of prison and they can have all this rage and feel jaded and not whole, not at peace. But how did you, David, find peace? How did you come out focused and ready to gobble up all that life has to offer? I want everybody to really lean into his words coming up in the next segment, because wherever you are in your life, the circumstances, if David can go from prison to where he is today, motivating, serving others, you can too. It's just about pressing forward, staying the course, having goals. And when you do that, that's where the magic lives. That's how you live full out. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Nancy Solari, and this is the Living Full Out Show. And today we're talking about pressing on and just what that takes, that grit, that resilience, to get to a place of stuck, a place of yuck, a place of disappointments, and really turning a new page, a rebirth of a new narrative in your life. Well, David Garlock did just that. So we're going to jump back into our interview. Welcome back, David.
Hey, it's great to be here.
Well, as I said, it would be so easy for you to just go to prison and adopt some bad behaviors, feel really angry, let that just kind of stew within you. But God had other plans for you. He wanted you to just tap into that purpose, to make this wrong right. And so when you were in prison, you actually studied. You studied a lot. In fact, you came out with credits to spare going into college. What did you ultimately get a degree in?
So while I was in prison, I was able to get a drafting certificate and also a master's of theology through an unaccredited school. And when I walked into Eastern University, when I was released, I was able to get a bachelor's of arts in urban studies, focusing on criminal justice and social welfare. But like you said, while I was incarcerated, I had a decision to make. I could either do the time, which means take advantage of all these opportunities that were in front of me, or I could allow the time to do me. And that's where I would have gotten involved with the drugs, the alcohol, the prison game, gambling, different things like that. But I told myself that I wanted to be a different David Garlock, even if I had to do all 25 years. And so that's where the drive, the resilience, and the persistence was there, and it paid off because, like you said, when I walked into Eastern University, I walked in with 67 credits. So I was a second semester sophomore when I started college.
It's impressive. It's really impressive. But what is even more to me, and I'm in awe of you, is one of your jobs after college was actually like, what a role reversal. Here you were now supporting offenders. How hard was that?
Well, it wasn't just people who had committed an offense. It was actually people who had committed a sexual offense. And so people would always like ask me like, wait, what in the world are you doing? How can you do this work? And I would always tell people that what allowed me to do this work was my belief in grace, mercy, forgiveness, second chances. Brian Stevenson, the lawyer and founder of the Equal Justice Initiative, he has a famous quote that goes, "You're not as bad as the worst thing you've ever done." And so if I want people not to view me as a murderer, I have to view everybody else not as an offense that they committed, but as the person that they are. And it was such a powerful role, and it provided me opportunities to help these men heal. Because a lot of times they would never be able to talk to the person that they had harmed. So I was able to be that victim by proxy. And so my job became really restorative justice, where I was able to help them heal and ask for forgiveness, but more importantly, for them to forgive themselves.
Along your path, you're just so steadfast in developing that new version of David, right? But the truth is, for all the times that you were putting yourself out there to get a job, just make some money, you would get these fairly templated letters back, dancing around why they didn't hire you, knowing why they didn't hire you. How hard was that?
I mean, it's always hard. I mean, even now, I mean, I've been out of prison 13 years now. I have a pardon, but I still get these letters, saying, "Oh, we love you as a person. We love your experience, but we went with somebody who has more experience and more talent." And I mean, yeah, I mean, I could believe that a little bit, but I also believe that they just can't get past the fact that I went to prison for murder. And what's really sad about this is a lot of these roles are working in reentry organizations or working with people coming home. And so why would I not be a perfect fit for this? I mean, the church I go to, I serve in children's ministry. I've been doing that since 2001, so 5 years. And it's like, if my church is okay with me serving in kids ministry and doing stuff like that, wouldn't you think a business or a job would be able to overcome and look at me differently then too? But yeah, I mean, it's definitely disheartening to put all this effort into applying and then interviews and then just getting this template of an email, not really specifying like, oh, this is an area where you lacked in, and so that's why we didn't go with you.
Yeah. Your mom, you were a mama's boy, and I know your mom is no longer with us, but there was a time where she said, "I want you to tell me everything. I want you to put it all in a letter." But obviously that tragically was part around the same time that she passed. What happened there?
Yeah, so she had been writing us for about 2 or 3 months when we were in the county jail. What was really crazy is the way that she found out we were incarcerated is one of her friends that worked at the auto auction that she was at was on the internet and found it. And yes, they had the internet in 1999. I mean, some people just still like baffled at that. Like, wait, what? They had it back then? Um, so she started writing, and then she asked us to write her a letter. So one Friday afternoon, my brother and I sat down in our cell. This was a point when he and I were in the same dorm and sharing a cell. And we wrote all weekend. We finished the letter probably 6 p.m. Sunday night. And it ended up being 30 pages front and back. And my writing is not big. I have like a size 12 or 14 font. That's the size of my handwriting. And so 30 pages front and back. And so we sent it to her. It was probably March of 2000. We didn't get anything back until August of 2000. And the letter, the outside on the envelope wasn't even my mom's handwriting. It was my stepdad's, and it was chicken scratch. I couldn't even understand what it said. And then I opened it up. There was a little note from my stepdad, and he said that my mom died of a massive heart attack at 46 years of age as she was writing us back. And that was a very hard pill to swallow because we knew that she was going to be there. She was going to try to come up and see us whenever she could. She was going to be a support system. And here it is. She finished my letter and was halfway through my brother's letter when she passed away.
Yeah, I'm so sorry because I mean, my mom's one of my best friends, so I can appreciate that loss. And but it's important that we mention that because, again, this was all part of your healing process. This, and as you think about the time you spent in prison, you think about that letter and, oh gosh, what if I had done that differently? I mean, if you could go back and have never done the murder, would you?
No, I mean, I get asked all the time. They're like, David, what if you could change anything in your life? What would it be? And I tell people nothing, because if you take anything away from my life, I'm not the person I am today. I'm not having the impact. Just the other day, I was at Sacred Heart University in Connecticut, and I was speaking, and in it, I asked the students, I'm like, hey, I lived on campus at Eastern University. Would you all be scared if somebody who went to prison for murder lived on campus? And there was this guy that raised their hand, and he's like, before today, absolutely. But then he said something that was so profound. He's like, after hearing you and your story, I wouldn't have any problem with it because I now realize that there's so much depth and stories behind whatever somebody goes to prison for. And I mean, that's the ability I have to impact people by sharing my story. I get to change the narrative.
I love that. And you did get that pardon. And there's this time when you were at the airport and you saw Bahamas. And what did that make you think?
Man, there I was. I just celebrated the night before because I got the pardon on September 14th, 2021. Ate me some good Southern food because I had to go down to Alabama for the hearing. And there it is. Yeah, I was at the Atlanta airport walking to my gate and I saw the Bahamas. I was like, wow, if I had my passport, I could just jump on that plane, and go to the Bahamas. And it was so freeing, I didn't get my gun rights back, but immediately I no longer had to send an email or call my parole agent and ask for permission to go here, to go there. And I mean, I had an amazing parole agent. He actually wrote a 1.5-page letter for my pardon hearing. And he was so supportive of everything that I did while I was under his care as a parolee. And he'd always tell me, he's like, I wish I had all my parolees like you, because he's like, you're in school, you're in college, you're at work, you're doing everything you need to. I don't need to chase you around. And I mean, that's something that was very nice to hear, and that he had appreciation towards me because of the way that I was living my life.
Well, I think that, when it comes to hitting that reset button, I mean, you're married, you've got a kid, you're doing work that's purposeful. I mean, I don't think you could have landed on your feet any better. I mean, when you really think about it, are you proud of you?
I mean, absolutely, and I mean, the other day I celebrated 13 years out, and it's just so baffling and humbling just to think about everything that I've been able to accomplish in the last 13 years. And I always joke around to people, I'm like, if you tell me I would have accomplished everything that I have in these last 13 years I've been out, I would be like, you're on some really good drugs, because it's so bizarre and
it's impressive, David. It's a impressive. I mean, that's why I say, I mean, you are living full out. I mean, you're an in-action person, and I applaud that. So thank you so much for being on today's show. And everybody just, continue to go and check out more about David online. And David, thank you for being on the show. And for everybody else, if you have an inspirational story like David, we would love to hear from you. This is how the community works and how it got built. Just reach out to us at connect@livingfullout. We'll be right back.